Hey folks, I hope you're all doing well. I am looking at King Cobra JFS and Naked and Laughing, who just recently renamed herself Queen Cobra. I'm going to take a look at their relationship today, and I think it's kind of interesting. I've already shuffled and drawn cards for what Josh thinks of his relationship with Jessica. What does he want out of it? I've actually got a couple questions over here that I want to ask. My first one was, what does Josh want out of his relationship with Jessica? So I chose the Seventh Sphere Lenormand to answer this particular question, and I got ring. That surprised me because I really thought that he was the kind of person who just wants sex out of a relationship. But when it comes to Jessica, he wants a committed relationship. Now it's interesting because I also associate the ring, a metal piece, to be kind of difficult to break unless you have the tools to break it. Often the ring is associated with cycles. For some people, that's what it represents when they look at these kinds of cards. So that's the general theme of what he wants out of his relationship with Jessica. The problem is that he's got quite a bit of drama brewing. Here we've got tree and birds, and that to me says that he's got a loud, does that surprise anyone? He's got a loud and messy situation taking root and growing. He's going to have to choose to cut this tree down because it sure is growing right now, and I don't know whether he's going to actually cut the tree down, because in addition to that becoming an issue, something that he doesn't see coming, here we go, is that there are going to be a number of cycles that he hides, and they're abusive cycles. So these guys bookend each other. That tells me these are going to be abusive cycles, and there might be actual physical abuse, and he's going to do his best to cover it up. In fact, when they're not live streaming, you might not see the stuff that really goes on behind the scenes. I think that Jessica has already physically abused him in some fashion. Some people heard when they were having that one blow up, some people heard her slap him. It was about him using one pan, and she wanted him to use another pan, for instance. And I think some groundwork got laid around then. Groundwork was being laid already, but that might have been the first contact, the first abusive contact. And I see more happening here. He doesn't see that coming. He wants good times up ahead, and he's hoping that if he secures her, so to speak, with that ring, at least a commitment. I'm not going to date anyone else. Jessica's the only one for me. She's my queen, that kind of thing. He's hoping that he's going to secure her a little bit more, make her feel more secure. But he can't make her feel more secure. That's something that she has to choose for herself. And I know, we're talking about Jessica. She is a rough individual, if you pay attention to her. So, after we've got that thing that he doesn't see coming, more abusive cycles, which he's going to do his best to hide, we've got to discuss his solution. He needs to listen to his chat. And I know that he rants and rails against his chat, says that they're trolls, that they don't have his best interests at heart, but his chat dominates his life, and he can't get away from that. As long as he's on the internet, as long as he begs for donations from random strangers, basically his chat, as long as his chat supports his lifestyle, they're going to dominate him. And ironically enough, I've been seeing quite a few people give him good advice when it comes to leaving Jessica alone, putting her in her corner, doing his best to get away from her, because right now they're not living together. But I'm wondering if we're not going to see a timeline where they do move in together. Jessica moves up from Florida to Wyoming, and Josh becomes kind of stuck with her. That's what I see. It's interesting, this dominance that I see going on with his chat, there is some compassion in there, and that's something that I think is interesting. It's probably a selfish kind of compassion because they want their old entertainment back. And this isn't entertaining, this is destructive. And isn't that interesting? Right? So while I'm talking about Josh attracting destructive affection from Jessica, there is a destructive aspect to his relationship with Chat. This isn't good for him. It pigeonholes him into an area where he's out of touch with society in general. Whenever I hear Josh talk, it's about trolls. Oh, my trolls don't want to see me succeed. My trolls are so mad. This guy needs to get out and touch grass. And I hate that particular phrase because it feels really condescending to me. But he needs to leave the internet for a long time. And maybe with him moving into this trailer, ostensibly with support from Dad, and we're going to get into what Dad thinks about this relationship in just a second, but I'm wondering if he doesn't get to not worry so much. I know that Home Dad Clint pays for rent and all that kind of stuff. I know that. But I'm hoping that he'll get to have some space, like go out and be in nature, that kind of thing. Maybe he won't. But Josh desperately needs to get off the internet. That's going to be a huge solution to his problems. He needs to let go of Jessica, obviously. But then he needs to let go of his fans. His troll fans, which he doesn't see are trolls often. But still, these people want to see him in a better place. It's fascinating. Basically, he needs to get away from the people on the internet. Needs to get away from Jessica. Needs to get away from his chat. His family isn't the best in the world for him. On the other hand, they're trying. They're trying their best. Take that as you will. Okay. So that was what Josh wants out of his relationship with Jessica, and there are some real problems, obviously, with that. I want to shuffle again, same Seventh Sphere Lenormand cards. I want to shuffle again and see what Jessica wants out of her relationship with Josh, and I'm going to use the same spread with her, too. And here I shuffle until Spirit tells me to stop. General theme is that she wants to stick around. She wants to anchor down in his life, sit at port, so to speak, and not move until some other situation moves her, basically. That's interesting. Josh got the ring. She gets the anchor. Both metal, if you will. Tough to screw around with unless you have the tools to break the ring or pull up the anchor. So birds of a feather flock together in a really, really negative kind of way. I don't believe that Josh is deserving of abuse by any means. However, his vibrations have attracted Jessica to him. I feel like part of his desire for sex and connection, it feels like he was going for the lowest common denominator. Just cisgender, non-related, of age. Those are some really basic things, but he wasn't looking for a non-abusive relationship, ever. He had some really bottom-of-the-barrel basic stuff that you can get, but you can also get in a higher quality person that isn't going to abuse him like Jessica. But Jessica wants to sink her claws into him. She wants to shack up. She wants to settle in Casper, Wyoming. Okay. Well, this tells me about isolating. the tower over here is going to be about isolating, and that's about creating secrets. And I said earlier in Josh's spread that there were going to be abusive cycles that he wouldn't want out there, that he was going to bury. That's what we see in the coffin, that he was going to bury it and keep it away from the public view. And I see her wanting to keep secrets, isolate Josh, and close him away from the world, which is exactly what he doesn't need. He needs fresh air, needs to touch grass, so to speak, needs to get out in society. I know that he's, part of it is that he's gotten into such a destructive cycle with the internet that's all he can see when there's so much more from him. She wants to close him off even further from the world. Obviously a problem. This came up again. What she doesn't see: messiness, drama, a messy, dramatic love relationship. Yeah, she doesn't see it, but we do, coming from a long way. And this is going to be a messy, dramatic choice to do with love, and she doesn't see it that way. She just wants to set down anchor right here. She's described before how she doesn't want to leave Josh, and I absolutely see that here, but it's also a really destructive choice. It's going to create a lot of drama for them. This is about sex. So in Lenormand, the lily can be red for sex, or it can be white for retirement, coming to the end of life, that kind of thing. And this is absolutely, in my particular reading, this is the red lily of sex. Yeah, emotional sex, I can see that. It's also something that she wants behind closed doors. And for some reason, I'm getting a bit like she might want Josh to do a bit of pornography with her. She wants something. She wants to grow this. Whatever it is that she wants to grow, I don't know that it's a good thing. She definitely doesn't want people to see this. I'm getting a lot of cards that have to do with hiding from people, making things private that people should know about because of how destructive she can be. But this is an entirely emotional thing. This doesn't have anything to do with, okay, yeah, I wondered when a negative card wouldn't pop up. Something about deception. It could be that she's trying to deceive him into doing something with her that he wouldn't normally do through sex and through how emotional he can get around sex. But I'm seeing quite a destructive aspect brewing here, a lot of deception, two-facedness, and I'm seeing her, this is basically going to bite him in the ass. And I don't think that she is deliberately intending to bring about a situation where he and she get bit in the ass per se. I think it's just a natural consequence of their behavior. So obviously, if she doesn't want this particular ending, she's going to have to choose not to go to Wyoming. But she's not going to do that. I feel like this is going to cycle into an even more stormy situation because she can't leave well enough alone. And Josh has been saying, I haven't had anyone to hold in forever. Josh has just the bare bones basics in mind when it comes to a relationship with someone that he's only partially attracted to. I can tell that he's stressed out when she's in the picture. He's not thrilled to have her around, but he is happy somewhat to be in a relationship because at the end of the day, I don't know how much he cares about the quality of the person as much as he has to be able to say, I am in a relationship. It's destructive. It's settling. And ideally it shouldn't happen, but I don't know. These people don't strive for ideal. They just don't, unfortunately. Okay. Let me pull these cards up and we'll ask more questions. Okay, so I want to know next what Home Dad Clint thinks of their relationship. I'm using the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot cards today for this particular question, and I've already shuffled and laid them out. I don't think anyone's going to be surprised at what I pulled. So, Home Dad Clint thinks of these, thinks of these kids as kids who just need to be allowed to hang out and play. There's nothing serious to see here. Which is kind of destructive. There's a nostalgic aspect. Okay, no. I'm getting that he kind of sees himself in Josh. Okay, he sees himself in Josh chasing pussy. Kind of a crass way to put things, but it's the truth in this particular case. He thinks Josh is just sowing his wild oats, and he couldn't be he's just letting his son do his thing, basically. And this is interesting. This goes along with the child's play kind of aspect. So knights in Rider-Waite-Smith are often quite a bit younger than adults. They're teenagers, basically, or very young adults, inexperienced young adults. And that's what Home Dad Clint kind of sees in Josh, is that this isn't serious, this is just for play. It isn't a big deal, so why should he lift a finger to do anything, say anything? Here's Home Dad Clint when it comes to, these cards aren't on top of each other the way I laid them out in this particular spread. Here's Home Dad Clint. He isn't interested in doing anything to interfere with these kids playing around. Kids will be kids is what he thinks to himself. Kind of a destructive perspective to take, considering what's been going on. I don't get that Home Dad Clint sees what's going on. I don't feel like he's watched the video where Jessica slaps Josh. I don't feel like he's seen that. He's definitely not interested in doing anything about this. He's going to sit on his ass until someone lights a fire underneath him, so to speak, and says, this is what's going on. Things are getting bad. And even then, he might not act until Josh says, things have gotten bad, I need help. And then he'll act. Basically, what Clint is planning on doing is letting Josh make his own choices. And Josh has a wide array of choices to make at this particular stage because Jessica hasn't moved in. He still has some degree of freedom. He can just cut her off and that's it. She wouldn't necessarily be able to fly over to Wyoming because she can't afford to do that. I believe it's been fans who have flown her over. My impression. I'm willing to be corrected in that department. But Clint feels like Josh needs to make his own choices and needs to make mistakes when it comes to his own choices. And Home Dad Clint will bail Josh out for his bad choices if the time comes. And by the way, these two cards are stacked up on top of each other with my particular spread. These aren't particularly serious choices in love that he's making. Let him make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, right? Clint says, I made mistakes. Why shouldn't Josh have the freedom to make mistakes? He should be a kid. He should sow his wild oats, so to speak. A destructive perspective to take, that's for sure. Okay, I had other questions that I wanted to handle. The next one is, what is the most likely outcome of this connection for Josh? And then I'll ask about the most likely outcome of this relationship for Jessica, but I'm going to handle Josh first. And Lenormand is saying, Spirit is saying, let's lay out 5 Lenormand cards. No more than 7. Okay, 7 please. Very good then. Let's do 7. The most likely outcome for this relationship, understanding that Choices could be made, and the new most likely outcome could shift. That's fine. But it feels like people don't change their minds and suddenly make new, better decisions quickly. Worse decisions? Yeah, I can see that. Okay, let's lay out 7. First card, mice, destruction. Most likely outcome of this connection for Josh. Okay. Well, I hope that it doesn't glare too much. Maybe I should close a window or turn out a light. But I'm seeing a sudden, rapid end to this destruction, a destructive, rapid end. Well, I'm getting the chat card again. Chat makes an appearance in this particular reading. And then we've got clouds. I need to turn out a light. We've got clouds because there's going to be some the chat may not be able to see this destructive ending because it might take place away from the camera. There's a real risk that Jessica will have isolated Josh to a point that chat doesn't see most of their relationship. Like, it'll be like seeing an avalanche. You'll see the tip of the iceberg, but then there's the real layers of shit underneath the ocean, which the chat will not get to see. Tower, isolation, and look at the clouds underneath the tower, right? I feel like Jessica is going to isolate Josh from the chat, and in fact, these two cards are bookending each other. Clouds is the central theme for this particular reading. Chat's not going to see because Jessica's going to isolate him. Yeah, behind closed doors. Isolate him in his own home behind closed doors, and she's going to dominate every aspect of his life. He thought the trolls were going to dominate his life. That is going to be nothing compared to how she's going to dominate his life. And I asked, what is the most likely outcome of this relationship? It's going to cycle to a particularly destructive time in Josh's life. He might look back with a great deal of regret if things finally end. And I'm getting from Spirit that they're not going to end for a long time. And they're going to be people in chat who see this as entertaining. But again, I don't know how much Jessica is going to let Josh online. I don't know how many lives he's going to do once she really gets anchored in, like we saw earlier with her particular spread when it came to what she wanted out of her relationship with Josh. It felt like she was going to put down roots, so to speak, with Josh, settle in, and it looks like make life a living hell. She's not going to see it that way. She just wants to be together with someone who she feels like at least likes her. She keeps calling herself, "I'm so ugly, no one ever wants me." That's a manipulative aspect of her, but there's a part of her that really, really believes it. But she's also perfectly aware of what she's doing when she says that kind of stuff to Josh. She's reeling him in, so to speak. She knows how to manipulate Josh because I don't know, I think that she just flat out has more experience with manipulating people than he does. I get the feeling that Josh is kind of a surface level person. I don't know that he was always that way, but before drugs, alcohol, huffing, whatever it is that he huffs, huffing cologne, I think that he had some deeper thoughts, but I think that that deeper thinking is pretty much all but gone. He's a very surface level kind of thinker. And I think it's going to be easy to isolate him, unfortunately. Destruction is going to be prominent in Josh's life. These guys are bookending each other on either side of the spread. Home is going to become a place of torture for him. Swift ending is what I did ask about. An outcome, a swift ending. I wonder if Clint isn't going to get the authorities involved, because Josh definitely, I don't believe, has the ability to say, I'm calling the cops on my queen. I don't feel like he's going to be in a place to do that, but I do think that Clint might be in a mindset to finally get up off his ass as the King of Wands in reverse and say, enough's enough. My boy's in a destructive mindset. I haven't seen him in a long time. I haven't talked to him in a long time, and I know it's because Jessica's cutting him off from me. I'm calling in help. And I don't know how, okay. Clint apparently has according to Spirit, Clint has a good relationship with the authorities. So he's going to be able to talk to them about what he's been seeing in Josh's relationship with Jessica. And there might be something that comes out of that. But I don't believe that Josh is going to put an end to this connection with Jessica. I think that Clint is. That might change, okay? If Josh fundamentally changes as a person, which I strongly doubt will happen, this might be the most likely outcome. I doubt Josh will change. So, yes, I think that Clint will probably have to step in and do something about Jessica. Evict Jessica. If Clint owns the trailer that Josh is moving into, Clint will have the ability to do that legally. Okay. We're taking a look at the most likely outcome for Jessica when it comes to this particular connection. Okay. Interesting. So I've got house and child. I don't know how big of a risk there is for pregnancy, but now I'm a little bit more concerned now that I see that. And then alongside these cards, we've got ring. And ring is the central theme here. Remember that was what was also popping up in Josh's reading when... Okay. I wonder if Jessica isn't going to get pregnant. And Josh is going to say, I'm going to stay committed no matter what. Kind of like his dad did with Josh. And obviously, it's a destructive connection. This is the order these cards appeared in. Okay? Destructive connection, in spite of the fact that a child might be involved. Please take that with a grain of salt. I really, really hope that Jessica doesn't become pregnant, but they've already been throwing that word around a little bit. Chat has encouraged that to a certain degree. But will most likely make, is what I should say, a really destructive choice when it comes to shutting things down, isolating Josh from the world. She's going to make a really rough choice, and that's when Clint might swoop in and say, enough's enough. They can make their own choices, they're kids sowing their wild oats, but when you involve abuse, when you involve isolation when it comes to Josh, that's when I step in. Also, Clint might choose to step in if a child comes about because of this connection. Good grief. I wonder if Clint isn't going to kick her out and keep Josh and their baby around just to protect Josh and the kid. Good grief. I'm not getting that Josh and Jessica are going to marry, most likely, but that could change. The ring in this particular case isn't so much about engagement, but it is about commitment. She is going to she's going to put down roots, like we saw with that anchor card. Put down roots, and she's going to go kicking and screaming. I wonder, I'm seeing, body cam. I'm seeing body cam footage of the authorities going into the home where Josh and Jessica would be staying and literally pulling her out while she screams and possibly arresting her. That's what I see in my mind. Please keep in mind that the future is always in motion, as Yoda said. The future is always in motion, and we don't always see it clearly because people can make choices and change the future. These people seem to be hell-bent towards destruction, whether they mean to or not, so we'll see whether this is a likely outcome or not, okay? We're going to put these away for a bit, and we're going to get into another question. I want to know what Spirit would like to say about the abuse going on in the relationship in its current stage. We can talk about any future abuse that might come into play, but for now, what would Spirit like to say about any abuse that's going on in the relationship? Well, with the Moon card in reverse, that means that it's pretty much out in the open. What we see is what is going on to a certain degree. They film a lot, and there are a number of perceptive people who have been through similar situations. Okay, yeah, total immaturity, Page of Cups in reverse, absolute immaturity. I'm getting like so focused inwards that they don't see how other people see them. So they broadcast aspects of the relationship without even being aware of it. Like the cameras aren't even necessarily rolling. Like the camera might be rolling, but it might be muted. And they still can't hide stuff because these aren't the most, I'm not trying to be insulting, but these aren't the most intelligent people, right? They may think that they're hiding stuff, but they're not. Jessica might be in a position later on to isolate Josh, to cut things off, because she'll have learned by then that chat sees a whole lot more than she wants them to see. And that's when that cloud aspect around the bouquet, the chat, would come into play. Not being able to leave. I don't know that chat's going to be able to stop thinking about this. Swords are about thoughts and speech. They're not going to be able to stop talking about it. They're not going to be able to stop thinking about it. Like, this is going to become okay. I'm seeing the Kiwi Farms become a hotbed of discussion, like it isn't already. But King Cobra's board on the Kiwi Farms is going to become active, like super active. That thread is going to be constantly updating, and like it isn't already. But people are going to be talking about this for a long time to come. Yeah. I don't know whether people are necessarily going to learn stuff from this particular connection. Because Ace of Swords, if they were upright, people would say, okay, do you see what's going on here? Let's try to find ways where we can not imitate this, not bring these same aspects into our relationships. But I feel like a lot of people will look at this relationship, say, oh my gosh, this is so entertaining, but then turn around to their own destructive relationships with friends, romantic partners, family, and echo those exact same abusive hallmarks and not change anything. There might be some rumors passed around about Josh and Jessica that aren't true, quite possibly because people can't stop talking about them. There could also be some really destructive things being said because the cameras will be turned off. Josh won't be in front of the screen anymore. Okay, doxing. It could be the Kiwi Farms and peripheral groups, like, let's say, for instance, a new subreddit pops up around this. It could be that doxing could happen. People spying, so to speak, could happen. For some reason, I'm getting Music Biz Marty and Cyrax, and what, like, the fireworks that went off when Music Biz Marty and Cyrax got into a physical fight. Like, there's going to be those kinds of interactions where people go in and tap the glass, so to speak. They mess with the cows. They cow tip. Because this is so entertaining for them. And when if Jessica isolates Josh in order to keep tighter control over him, people are going to go in and tap the glass. Tip the cows, quite possibly. Maybe. But definitely they're not going to be able to stop talking about this. They're going to want to glean as much information as possible. And they're not going to be able to let it go very easily until they get the information that they want. So what I said earlier about chat being really destructive for Josh absolutely holds true. It's not just chat. It's the culture that's developed around Josh over the years that has become really, really destructive for him. And I don't know how easy it would be for him to just cut everybody off, not just because he has a habitual relationship with them, but because his culture, the culture that's developed around him, has become so hell-bent on milking him, so to speak, that they're not going to let go of this easily at all. They're going to have to move on to somebody else before they start to forget about Josh. And let's be honest, Josh has a negative symbiotic relationship with the internet that shouldn't be there if he's going to be in his healthiest mindset. But it's there. It is what it is, tubes. Okay. You know, I was picking up the cards that I had just pulled when it came to asking Spirit about what we should know about the abuse that's going on in the relationship. All that I just said, and I feel like Josh is just going to flat out struggle to get away from this. He's not going to want to get away from this because he'll be lying to himself. This is also about lying to oneself about what's going on. And it's because he flat out doesn't have the emotional maturity to see what's going on. He just flat out doesn't have it. This is a child, mentally speaking. He's all about the emotions, but doesn't think very hard about this at all. He's going to lie to himself, basically, about what Jessica would be doing if indeed she were to isolate him. And he's not going to leave because, once again, he'll be lying to himself. It's Clint that's going to have to step in with the authorities to evict Jessica and send her back to Florida or Virginia or wherever she came from. I know I said Florida earlier. I don't know that she's there. She seemed to me to be like someone from Florida. I don't mean to be insulting, but yeah, that's the impression that I got from her. But he's not going to leave because he's going to lie to himself about this relationship because he's an emotionally immature person. But at the same time, he's going to be really open about this because he is so emotionally immature. He's going to let people know without explicitly saying what's going on. He's just going to let people know. It's going to, like, through his attitude, how he talks about it, right? When he does go live, when he does upload videos, he's going to tell on himself, basically. But he's still not going to leave. He's going to lie to himself about this. Okay, one more question. What are some lessons to be learned for the people who watch Josh and Jessica? If there's somebody in the audience who's of some wise mind, Lenormand cards, please. 5 of them. What are some lessons to be learned for the people who watch Josh and Jessica? If there are some wise-minded people out there who see something and say, oh my God, I don't want that to happen to me. Maybe I should take a page out of their lesson book and make these adjustments to my life or avoid these situations in my own world. And what could those lessons be? We've got letter, we've got heart, and crossroad. So I often associate this with marriage contracts, but it's also about love letters, text messages that are maybe sexy in nature. Well, no, not sexy, because that's a lily. That'd be the heart. So loving relationship through text, for instance, maybe even online relationships, because those are legitimate too. As more of our lives go online, so do our online romantic relationships. But make a proper choice in how you communicate with people that you love. Educate yourself. Okay, educate yourself about the things that you try to keep buried. Here with the coffin, there are some truths that some audience members would do well to learn when it came to their own love relationships and family and friendships. That if you're trying to keep truths away from yourself, it's time to do the uncomfortable work and turn an eye inward, possibly with the help of a therapist, to say, I don't want to face this particular aspect about my relationship and maybe a destructive part of it, for instance. And I need to get rid of that if I'm going to get into my highest self. And I don't know how many audience members who watch Josh and Jessica are going, I don't know how receptive people will be. But you can still make a positive choice when it comes to love and truths that you can find in love. Romantic, friendship, family, that kind of thing. It doesn't matter. All relationships have some things that can be worked on. Some are more destructive than others. So if anything, this should encourage you to not do what Josh and Jessica do, to do even more work on your relationships so that you can make them as good as possible for you and for them and for the people around all of you. Okay, that's enough. These people, I call them my trash TV in a sense, right? Some people watch the Kardashians and all that. I don't know if their show is still airing or anything like that. But people have their trash TV. This is my trash TV. And sometimes it's way too soul-sucking in order to call it trash TV anymore. Then it's just horror, right? Okay, folks. I hope you all have a great day. Please take care.